Hi all, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Great to be here. Oh, so many people are pouring in. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. As you're arriving, feel free to settle in, get comfortable, and answer our check-in question in the chat, which is just to let us know where you're joining from and how familiar you are with environmental issues around data centers. Welcome, Megan, Rob, Randy. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know how familiar you are with issues around data centers. And we welcome everyone from experts to people who are just hearing about them for the first time. We're going to go over everything today. So no matter how much you know, you are welcome. And we're excited to talk through it together. Seeing a range, some people starting to learn, don't know much. That's great. Some people feeling really concerned about proposals for data centers near them. Somewhat excited, somewhat familiar, excited to learn more. Great. Don't know all that much. Wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. Well, people are still coming in, but we're up to almost 500, so I think we should get started. Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Marissa. It's great to see some familiar names joining us, returning from previous action hours, and great to see so many new names. Welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. We continue to be in a really intense moment in this country. I know I don't need to spend too long on this because I imagine we're all thinking about the state of the world right now. Seems to be getting more and more out of control every day. And on the environmental front, the attacks really escalated last month with the Trump administration really taking a sledgehammer to decades of environmental protections, undoing the endangerment finding, which underpins the federal government's ability to fight climate change, allowing coal plants to pollute more and more. And of course, all the while, so many families are struggling to afford food and healthcare and childcare and electricity bills, while those at the very top make more and more money. And Trump continues to evade accountability. So I wanted to start by just acknowledging, I know many of us are entering this space feeling really heavy, overwhelmed, maybe scared. And if you are feeling that way, if it's feeling hard to focus or unclear how to take meaningful action, that makes sense. And this action hour is not going to address everything happening right now, but it will be one opportunity for us to join together to talk about one of the really important issues that we're facing right now and take action together. And I know I always leave one of these hours feeling better to have done something than just to keep reading the terrible news. So I'm really glad you all are here. So today, our action hour will be focused on what we can do to ensure that big tech and utility companies are held responsible for data center growth. Instead of just passing on the energy costs and the pollution to the rest of us, to everyday people. I'm seeing in the chat, I'm feeling it in my own life. Data centers are popping up everywhere. And we're seeing this all over the country, from small rural communities in red states to city centers, from coast to coast, everywhere. And And it's a lot to understand. It's a relatively newer issue and has a lot of implications. So we're going to talk through all of that today. And then we're going to take 2 actions together to help move things in the right direction. So I'm going to introduce this space just a little bit more in a moment. But first, I want to start with a poem. This is a poem by Andrea Gibson, the amazing writer and activist who died in July, about the power of working alongside each other. It's called Say Yes. When 2 violins are placed in a room, if a chord on one violin is struck, the other violin will sound the note. If this is your definition of hope, this is for you. The ones who know how powerful we are, who know we can sound the music and the people around us simply by playing our own strings. And we like to start with that because art and music and poetry are things that can help us get through some of the fear and the uncertainty that many of us are experiencing. And it feels just good to ground in that together before we dive into some of the nitty-gritty. So with that, let's dive in and give a brief welcome to those who are new. Maybe this is your first time interacting with the Sierra Club. If so, welcome. The Sierra Club is one of the oldest and largest grassroots environmental organizations in the country. We have 64 chapters in every state, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. We also have an outings program that gets people into nature, and we run national, state, and local campaigns about a whole range of issues: fighting climate change, protecting wild places, wildlife, and our families and communities from pollution. And we started doing action hours when Trump was elected with the intention of creating a regular space for concerned, overwhelmed, busy people to make sense of what's coming at us and figure out how to take meaningful action together. And we hope that for those of you who have joined these spaces, we found them useful. We know from looking at social movement history that the only way we're going to win to protect our communities and our future is if more and more and more people get involved and build the skills, practice together, make the connections, and take those actions. So we hope that these action hours are just one way that you can do that. Okay, so for today's agenda, we are going to start with an issue briefing where our Sierra Club expert, Jeremy Fisher, will provide an overview of what is happening with data centers. What are the impacts we're seeing? How is it affecting our communities, our climate, our water, our pocketbooks, our bills? We will have a quick Q&A, and then we will take the 2 actions together because today is about action. So we want to leave plenty of time for that. The 2 things we're going to be doing today is sending messages to our state utility commissions, urging them to protect us against the threats of pollution and higher energy costs. These are some key decision makers, and it's really important that they be hearing from us directly. And then next, we're going to be reaching out to our friends and family because we know that so many people are just starting to hear about data centers. And after you get this briefing, you're going to know a lot more than many of your friends and family. And one of the most important things we can be doing is talking to the people in our lives who trust us, who are much more likely to hear what we're saying and pay attention if it's coming from someone that they already know. And when we get to those actions, we'll walk you through them step by step. So don't worry. So last thing, before we dive in, I want to make a quick note here about the technology we're using. We are streaming live across Sierra Club's YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn channels. And so we have people joining from all platforms today, I think over 700 now. Great. And if you need live closed captioning, that is available on LinkedIn and Facebook. YouTube captioning will be available after the webinar, but unfortunately that's not available live. There's also a chat function. We welcome you. Many of you are already making good use of the chat. Ask questions, make comments, and we will reply to as many as we can. And we might not be able to get to all of them, but we will do our best. I also want to take just a quick moment to invite everyone to look at our community norms. We're going to be talking about a topic that people might have different opinions about today. That is okay. We invite you to just engage with kindness and respect, try things out. If it's new, some of you might be very familiar, again, with the issue as well as the actions and the tactics, and some of you might be less familiar and less comfortable, and that is okay. So we hope you're willing to give it a shot and try it out. And you can let us know what you thought at the end. We'll welcome your feedback. So yeah, and please feel free to share constructive disagreements. Just engage with respect. Okay, I'm going to pass it to my colleague Jeremy now. Welcome, Jeremy, to talk us through the issue. Jeremy is our principal advisor for climate and energy, and he's been helping to lead our data centers work in the energy sector for the last 2 years. And if you have questions while he's speaking, please put them in the chat. And we will have a few minutes to answer them after the briefing. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Marissa, and thank you so much for being here, everyone. It's really great to have you on with us, and it's exciting to be able to work with you today to hopefully really help the way that this is, we can change the way that states are working with this. My name is Jeremy, he, him. I work with our state and national teams on grid decarbonization to get a cleaner, more affordable grid for all of us. And this afternoon, we're here together to really change the game on data centers. We're going to be working to make sure that we're not paying for the costs of big tech's expansion with our pocketbooks, climate or local pollution. So you're probably here tonight because you've either heard discussions in the news about how much data centers are changing the electric sector, or you've read some of the work that we and our partners have put out there, or maybe you've heard Trump tell us that he's going to let power plants pollute just a whole lot more because he wants to win the AI race. Or maybe there's a new data center that's being built down the road from you, and you wouldn't be the only one. In fact, data centers that are being proposed today are an order of magnitude larger than anything that we've ever seen before, and almost in every state. And how big are the new data centers that are being proposed? Well, to give you a sense of scale, really big factories might be up to 20 or 30 megawatts. And until about 4 years ago, that was the size of some of the biggest data centers that we'd see. But with the rush to build AI factories, we're seeing proposals up at around 1,000 megawatts or a gigawatt, sometimes even larger. That's like the electricity consumption of the entire city of Orlando, Florida, like 200,000 homes, 25,000 businesses and schools, a few thousand really huge customers, and an international airport. All of that wrapped into a single data center. Next slide, please. So usually when we add new industries or demands to a power system, it doesn't have to have much impact on other customers, and it can even bring costs down if there are more customers to share those common costs. But these supersized data centers are providing a little bit of a different system impact. We're already starting to see evidence that other ratepayers are footing the bill for our data centers, and that can happen through 3 major routes that I'm showing here on the slide. First, data centers require a lot of new energy infrastructure, like power plants, transmission lines, distribution systems. And in most cases, those costs get spread out to all other ratepayers, so we end up covering some of those bills. Second, unless they're building really new low-cost energy like renewables, data centers can push up the amount of time that we're relying on expensive gas, coal, and even oil, and that can push costs onto other ratepayers. And finally, there's this tricky question where nobody's quite certain whether all of this AI data centers are going to actually make back the money that they're spending today. And they're spending a lot of money, and utilities are spending a lot of money being able to serve them. So what happens if utility builds for these data centers and the data centers don't show up or they go out of business? That leaves the rest of us holding the bag. And of course, the reason that a lot of us are here today is that we're really worried about the pollution impacts from data centers. Already, we have utilities and big tech companies that are building gas and extending coal lives just as fast as they can, potentially setting back critical climate targets for decades. And folks that live near data centers probably already know that most of them build dozens to hundreds of backup diesel generators, which can have enormous impacts on local air quality. And finally, data centers that use this much energy have extraordinary cooling requirements, can use enormous quantities of water, which is really a problem in dry places or even for local surface waters, even where there is enough water to go around. So what can we do about this? Well, this is the reason that you're here today. First, we've been demanding that tech companies themselves do better with open letters that we're providing directly to these big companies and making public, going through op-eds and one-on-ones with some of the biggest tech companies. And we're encouraging them to try to be leaders in this space. One of the most important places that we're trying to make a difference is by making sure that regulators put in place firm guardrails that protect your electricity bills, our climate priorities, and community air and water quality. And our grassroots organizers have been helping to organize and mobilize communities to tell regulators that they need to step up to the plate, like this amazing rally that I'm showing a picture of over here on the right side in January in Michigan. So today, we're going to be doing a little bit of both. We're going to be letting utility regulators all over the country know that they need to step up to the plate and protect customers, climate, and communities. But before we move on to this actual action today, I want to leave you with a couple of big takeaways. They boil down to this really key phrase at the top. We are not going to pay for big tech's power needs. And that means that data centers should do no harm to energy costs, our climate, or our communities. So we're basically asking for four big things. Data centers are already imposing costs on electric ratepayers. And without solid guardrails in place, it's going to get a lot worse. And we know that the rush to power AI is driving a race to the bottom. We're already starting to see data centers moving to states that have less regulatory pressure and less people power. Utilities are racing to build high-cost gas and extend coal plant lives. And that exposes all the rest of us to extra cost and fuel risk. Third, we've got these diesel backup generators at data centers, and they're flying under the regulatory radar, but they can have enormous local impacts on pollution, and particularly on really hot days or really cold days when the electricity grid is otherwise getting stressed. And the fourth one here is that utility regulators and state officials really must act to protect our energy costs, keep away speculators out of the system like real estate developers that are just trying to get in on the game, and make sure that we have a better system if the data centers actually do come online. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Marissa to help go through some of the questions that you guys have been putting in our chat as we've been going through.
Thank you, Jeremy. We have a lot of questions. We are not going to get to all of them. So we will pick a few and then we will try to answer more and send those in the follow-up. Okay. So Jeremy, I guess first, one basic one about why all these data centers are being built. Are data centers only used for AI?
No, data centers are not used only for AI. You know, there are a bunch of different things that data centers get used for. All of us are talking to each other right now through the grace of probably a number of data centers, both the ones that are helping figure out this whole StreamYard thing and all of the other services that we're using today, our email and many of the other services. There's a lot of things that we actually rely on. But a lot of the fastest growth and the huge growth of these absolutely enormous data centers really is being supercharged by artificial intelligence, and particularly by the training for these large language models. And that's the part that starts to drive a little bit of a concern, because we really just don't know how much this artificial intelligence rush is actually going to pan out. And right now, it's just a race for the gates. Get out as fast as you can and build as much as you can. And so that's leaving the rest of us at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's one. I've heard that Trump is going to ask data center providers to start paying for their own energy. What does that mean?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You know, there's rumors floating around right now that tomorrow or possibly sometime soon, Trump is going to get together with some of the biggest data center providers and ask them to pay their own way on paying for it, trying to meet their own power cost needs. And we're going to actually have to see what's in that pledge if that comes forward. But we can't really rely on a pinky promise from a few big hyperscalers that they're going to pay for their own costs, right? There's not a data center developer out there that doesn't currently believe that they're actually covering their own fair share. But we already have evidence from both states and the folks who actually watch our electricity markets, who say, actually, there are a lot of costs that are being shifted over to ratepayers. So what we really need is we need state regulators, because there's a big vacuum in the federal government, to hold those data center companies accountable and ensure that they're leaving us with a better and not worse off system. That's going to happen through better rate regulation that assign costs directly to data centers. It's going to happen through ensuring that we have clean energy that gets built for these data centers. And it's going to make sure that we have rigorous air standards and requirements for transparency, because so much of this is happening under the radar and is happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, I think that's the concern. We've seen what happens when we trust corporations who stand to profit to do the right thing. Yes. Okay, so speaking of shifting those costs onto everyday people, onto customers, so this person says it doesn't seem fair that customers should have to pay more for data centers that big tech is profiting from. Yes. Can any state require regulations for data centers that can help control these costs?
Yeah, pretty much. So there are a variety of types of utilities that are out there that serve all customers and data centers, but many of them are regulated by states and by state utility regulators who are supposed to be there for you. They're supposed to make sure that your rates are just and reasonable, and that you're not paying more than you otherwise should for your services. So if you're paying costs that are going to subsidize the rates for big tech and data centers, then that's fundamentally wrong. So the good news is that there are a couple of states who are starting to get ahead of this and trying to do this right, but it's slow work. And there are a bunch of states that are still laggards who haven't really put those protections in place. And so what we're asking for are things that are called large load tariffs. We're asking states to assign costs directly to those large data centers. And we're asking them to put in place mechanisms that ensure that we're left with more clean energy on the backside of this rather than more fossil that's raising the risk to the rest of us. So yeah, those state regulators and state legislators all have the option to really be able to crack down on this and make sure that you're held harmless.
Okay, that's good to hear. Well, on that note, we have a few people asking, what can we do? So I think that might be a good moment for us to pivot into our actions.
I'm excited to see it.
A lot more questions. Feel free to keep them coming. But with that, I'm going to pass it over to Christian to get us started on taking some action today.
Hey, folks. My name's Christian. I work on Sierra Club's digital team. So now that we understand why these issues are so important, what can we do about them? As Jeremy talked about, there's an urgent need for guardrails to protect ratepayers and communities from the harms of unchecked growth. That's why for our first action, we're going to focus on our state utility commissions. These are the agencies that are best positioned to create these guardrails. These are the regulators who oversee your electric utility, decide whether new power plants get approved, who pays for new infrastructure, and whether utilities can pass these costs onto everyday customers. In other words, they have the power to decide whether we pay for big tech's expansion or whether companies pay their fair share. And the good news here is they have to listen to the public. When we speak up, it gets entered into the official record. It can influence regulatory decisions, gives supportive commissioners political cover. And for people who don't have supportive commissions, it signals that people are paying close attention and that this is an important issue to you. So we've provided a template letter for you to build your message. While decision makers hear statistics all day long, what they don't hear enough are the real stories and impacts. We've seen a lot of that in the chat already. So we've included a line where you can talk about the personal impacts that data centers might already have on you, or something that could impact you as data centers come into your community. Here's a simple 3-part structure that you can use if you'd like. We'd like to start with who you are. That can include where you live, the fact that you're a ratepayer who's going to be affected by this, any relevant identity if you're a business owner and you're going to be impacted with not only your business, but your home. If you're a parent, a grandparent, concerned in that way. What concerns you? There's a number of issues. You can name more than one, but rising bills, local pollution, climate impacts, community health, loss of open space for enjoyment, and what you want your commissioners to do. That could be protect ratepayers, prevent new fossil fuels from coming online, set stronger guardrails. You can talk about particular projects if you happen to know and be knowledgeable about what's happening in your community there. You don't have to be an expert though. So we're going to provide this template letter. And if we're able to go to the next slide, here's what our template letter looks like. It has a lot of information, so feel free to use as much or as little of it as you'd like. The important thing is to customize it where we've highlighted and to add your own story. So we'll take a few minutes now to write our emails. We're going to have 2 short links here. This first one, sc.org/PUC emails, is where you can find either one, or sometimes we have several emails for particular commissioners for your state. And just copy and paste that email address into your email program that you use. And then if you go to sc.org/PUC letter, and on these short links, they are capital sensitive. So be sure to use uppercase for PUC. That's where you'll find your template letter. We ask that you create a subject line of your own, and then use as much or as little of the template language as you'd like, and just be sure to personalize where it's highlighted. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat and we'll try to answer them as they come up. So we'll take about 5 minutes to write our emails. Feel free to put in the chat once you've completed your email. We'll have a few more minutes and then we'll get ready for the second action. Just take one more minute to make sure folks have enough time, and then we'll get ready for a second action. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for writing your messages. Seeing a ton of comments that folks have already sent them. It's okay if you haven't finished yet. You can always add more and send your email after the call. These links are available in our worksheet. We will also have a follow-up email with all of the information in case the links didn't load for you for any reason. I know if you're tuning in from LinkedIn, sometimes you'll have to manually copy and paste that link over. Right now, we're going to transition over to our second action. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kathleen.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. My name is Kathleen. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm part of the National Digital Strategy team. I'll be walking you through the second action to multiplier impact. I was there alongside you doing this first one. So now we're going to go through sharing with our friends and family on social media or text, because most people, if you're anything like me, do not know that these data centers are being built at this rapid pace. And so we want to let them know a little bit more about the pace at which these data centers are being built, that utilities are proposing new gas plants instead of clean clean renewable energy, that our households will be paying the costs while big tech will keep all the profits. And we're also wanting to make them aware that regulators are making big decisions right now. So we have seen the issue in the news more often than lately. I'm sure that's why you all are here. But the most trusted source of information, and we know this is backed by science, is when people get the information from people they trust and love. And so we want that to be you. So tonight we're going to get that going. We have put together a few sample posts using our social media toolkit. We will drop that in the chat right now. You can access it via the link on your worksheet or go directly to sc.org/datacentershare. Now, if you don't want to share on social media, that's totally okay. Completely understand. We also have a sample text message that you can send instead. So we will offer that as well. And we will also drop in the chat that sample message for you. This sample message has some instructions as well if you go to sc.org/data worksheet, and we'll share all of that in the chat so you can follow along with us. Okay, so I'm going to give a few minutes for folks to get started on that piece, and if you have any questions or need any support, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Yeah, and the goal of this is just to share this out more broadly with your friends and family in whatever way you want. So is that via social media or text? Feel free to do that. Yeah, and you can make it your own, use a few minutes to do it however you like. And we will definitely be sharing all of this in a follow-up email. So if folks can't do it right now, don't worry. We will be able to send that over to you. All right, I just want to thank folks who have already taken action, spreading the word. I'm going to pass it now to Marissa for a few other items before we close.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathleen, and thanks all. I know a few folks had trouble accessing the links. Sorry about that. We will definitely send out an email with all of those. And really just the goal of this section, like Kathleen said, is that you all are the most effective messengers to your friends and family. So however you want to reach out to them, whether that's a conversation over coffee, sending a text, encouraging them to learn more, you can send them our webpage. You are the person who can help change people's minds and get them to pay attention. Maybe they've been trying to avoid this issue because it's overwhelming, and you can help demystify it a bit. Okay, wonderful. So we are going to start to move towards closing, but we have two quick but important things to cover first. This has been a great time together. It's just, for me, it's so nice to have a space set aside to come together and take these actions. It can be hard to get ourselves to do these things alone. So having a big group just makes it much more likely that we will actually send those letters or text that friend or whatever it is. So I want to acknowledge everyone for showing up today. There's a lot going on. You didn't have to spend your hour here with us, but you did. So thank you. And we want to invite you to keep showing up, whatever that looks like for you. Whatever you're able to do is what you should do. We hope it is taking more action with us. We hope it's whatever makes you feel connected and like we are bringing more people into the movement and continuing to push each other and push those in power to do the right thing. We are going to be back in April for a special Earth Month Action Hour focused on protecting endangered species. And this event is going to be part of a lands and wildlife event series that is being hosted by the Sierra Club's conservation campaign. So you can RSVP for that at the link in the chat. We will also be sending out this link in the follow-up email, so you have it. Those will be four in that series, starting in March, actually, but April will be our next big action hour. So please take a moment to RSVP and join us again. And then finally, we're going to end right now with a survey because this is an evolving program and we would really love your feedback. What did you like? What could have been better? Let us know. We read every single one of the replies in these surveys and we really take it to heart. So just take 1 or 2 minutes if you can. Stay on and take the survey and let us know what you think, what kinds of actions you'd be interested in doing in the future, what topics you want to hear about, and we will also include that in the email as well. And once you've finished the survey, feel free to hop off. Thank you all again so much. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.